The Prohibition. The observation deck of the Terran diplomatic vessel Concordia offered a spectacular view of Celestial Nexus, the massive crystalline space station that served as the headquarters of the Galactic Council. Commander Lydia Reeves stood with her arms crossed, watching as vessels from dozens of advanced civilizations glided through the void, their propulsion systems leaving trails of exotic particles that shimmered like cosmic auroras. "It's a hell of a view," remarked Admiral David Harker, joining her at the viewport. His weathered face reflected the multicolored lights from passing ships. "Shane, we're here to sign away our sovereignty." Lydia exhaled slowly. 12 generations of spacefaring civilization, and now we're being treated like children who can't be trusted with scissors. "The Galactic Council calls it the Species Maturity Protocol," Harker said. "I call it discrimination." The Ascension Treaty's Article 7 was explicit. Earth, as a developing spacefaring civilization, would be prohibited from constructing or maintaining vessels with primary military functions exceeding Class 3 capabilities. In practical terms, this meant nothing more powerful than lightly armed patrol ships designed for customs enforcement and pirate deterrence, glorified police cruisers, not warships. The Zithari delegation pushed hardest for these restrictions, Lydia said, bringing up a holographic display of diplomatic records. "They've opposed our admission to the Council from the beginning." The Zithari were one of the oldest Council species, avian creatures with iridescent feathers, and a civilization spanning nearly 20,000 years. They had a history of guiding younger species through controlled development, which critics called glorified vassalage. The official justification is that newer species require guidance before being entrusted with significant military assets, Harker said. "Funny how we're the only ones with these specific restrictions. The Balmerans joined just 3 cycles ago, and they've got dreadnoughts." "The Balmerans are clients of the Zithari," Lydia reminded him. "They'll vote however their patrons tell them to." An alert chimed softly on Lydia's comm unit. "It's time. The council chamber is ready for the signing ceremony." 4 hours later, Earth officially became the newest member of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Elena Chen signed the treaty with a steady hand, though her jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. The Zithari Primarch, Exelvesh, watched with gleaming eyes, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned to recognize as their version of satisfaction. "The Council welcomes humanity to the galactic community," announced Grand Arbiter Nolan, a gelatinous being from an ancient species called the Volux. "May this mark the beginning of a harmonious relationship that will endure for millennia." As they filed out of the chamber, Xalvesh approached Elena. "Your species learns quickly, Ambassador. I'm certain you'll adapt to the necessary limitations. After all, true civilization is about cooperation, not confrontation." Elena smiled diplomatically. "We're eager to prove ourselves worthy partners in the galactic community." Once the Zithari delegation had moved away, Admiral Harker muttered, "They'd been expanding into systems bordering our colonies for the past decade. This treaty gives them everything they wanted. A neutered human fleet that can't challenge their expansion." "I'm aware," Elena replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But the alternative was isolation. Without council membership, we'd have no legal protections whatsoever." Harker's eyes narrowed. "I hope those protections are worth more than the quantum particles they're recorded on." 3 months after the treaty signing, Elena's fear materialized. A distress call reached Earth from Proxima Colony, a mining settlement with nearly 50,000 inhabitants on the edge of human space. "This is Governor Malik of Proxima Colony. We are under blockade by Zithari vessels, claiming we violated their cultural preservation zone. We have no military presence here. These are civilian facilities. They're demanding immediate evacuation. Please respond." The transmission cut off abruptly. Earth's fastest response vessels would take 6 days to reach Proxima, even pushing their drives to dangerous levels. In an emergency session of Earth's Defense Council, Admiral Harker pounded his fist on the table. "This is exactly what we warned about. The Zithari waited until we were bound by treaty before making their move. "We filed a formal complaint with the Council," said Defense Minister Olivia Washington. "They're reviewing the matter." "Which means nothing will happen until it's too late," Alina said, having been recalled to Earth for the crisis. "The Zithari have 17 members in their voting bloc. Even if the evidence is overwhelming, they'll delay any official response. So we just abandon our people?" Harker demanded. "No," said a new voice from the doorway. Dr. Maya Patel, director of the Advanced Technologies Division, entered with a data tablet. "We use what the treaty allows." All eyes turned to her as she projected a holographic image of an unfamiliar vessel design. "Article 7 restricts military vessels," Maya explained, "but says nothing about civilian ships with advanced defensive capabilities or about the modularity of ship systems." "Go on," Alina said, leaning forward. "We've been developing the Prometheus program, a new class of rescue and disaster response vessels designed to operate in hostile environments like asteroid fields and solar radiation events." The hologram expanded to show the ship's internal systems. "They're equipped with reinforced hulls, enhanced shield systems classified as emergency containment fields, and high-energy cutting arrays for debris clearing and rescue operations." Admiral Harker's eyes narrowed as understanding dawned. "Cutting arrays that could function as weapons." "Precisely," Maya nodded. "And atmosphere stabilizers that could, theoretically, function as tractor beams. Every system has a dual purpose, but officially, they're all for civilian emergency response." "How many do we have?" asked Washington. 8 vessels are operational at the Luna shipyards. They can deploy immediately." Elena studied the schematics. "Have these been inspected by Council representatives?" 3 months ago, Maya confirmed. "They're certified as Class 2 civilian vessels. On paper, they're specialized rescue ships." 48 hours later, the 8 vessels of what was now called the Prometheus fleet activated their FTL drives on the edge of Sol system. Each ship bore the insignia of Earth Emergency Response Division, with names like Lifeline, Salvation, and Guardian. Captain Tariq Hassan of the Lifeline addressed his crew, a mixture of naval personnel and emergency response specialists, all with combat training. "Our mission is to protect Proxima Colony using any means necessary, but officially we're conducting an emergency evacuation operation. If we encounter Council observers, remember your cover stories." As the Prometheus vessels approached Proxima, sensors detected 4 Zithari military ships in orbit. The colony's communications had been jammed, and Zithari landing craft were descending to the surface. "Open a channel," Hassan ordered. The avian face of a Zithari commander appeared on screen, feathers ruffled in surprise. "Human vessels, this area is now under Zithari protection. Your colonists have encroached upon a designated cultural preservation zone. Withdrawal is in progress." "This is Captain Hassan of the Earth Emergency Response Vessel Lifeline. We're here to provide humanitarian assistance to our colony, as is our right under Galactic Council Resolution 1295 regarding civilian welfare. Our sensors indicate a blockade of a registered human settlement. Please withdraw your vessels." The Zithari commander's head tilted, a gesture of dismissal. "Your rescue ships pose no threat. Remain in position or be destroyed. We are acting within our rights." Hassan cut the communication. "Deploy emergency containment fields," he ordered calmly. The 8 Earth vessels activated their containment fields, actually military-grade shields modified to meet civilian classification requirements. "Prepare debris-clearing tools," Hassan continued. The ship's main cutting arrays emerged from their housings. The Zithari vessels fired first, energy weapons lashing out at the Lifeline. The shields held, absorbing the attack with minimal power loss. "Begin clearing operation," Hassan said, a slight smile forming. The Lifeline's main array fired, the energy beam slicing through the lead Zithari ship's shields with surprising effectiveness. The other Prometheus vessels engaged their industrial cutting tools, targeting propulsion and weapons systems on the remaining Zithari ships. The Zithari, caught completely off guard by the effectiveness of what they believed were civilian vessels, attempted to regroup. Their commander frantically called for reinforcements. "Deploy atmosphere stabilization systems," Hassan ordered. The Prometheus ships activated their stabilizer arrays, powerful tractor beams that seized the smaller Zithari landing craft, preventing them from reaching the colony surface. 26 minutes later, the engagement was over. 3 Zithari warships retreated with significant damage. The fourth had been disabled, its crew evacuated to escape pods now being collected for their safety by the Earth vessels. As the Lifeline landed near Proxima's main settlement, Governor Malik rushed to meet Captain Hassan. "I don't understand," he said, staring at the emergency response markings on the hull. "When they told me help was coming, I expected military ships." Hassan smiled as his crew deployed, carrying equipment that could serve both rescue and defensive purposes. "Space is a dangerous environment, Governor. We come prepared for all emergencies." The ingenuity. News of the Proxima incident spread rapidly through Galactic Council channels. The Zithari filed a formal protest, claiming Earth had violated Article 7 by deploying disguised military vessels. When Council inspectors arrived to investigate, they found only emergency response ships engaged in legitimate humanitarian operations with defensive capabilities well within treaty limitations. In an emergency council session, Alina Chen faced the furious accusations of the Zithari delegation. These were clearly military ships disguised as civilian vessels. Primarch Zalvesh hissed, feathers bristling. "The attack on our peacekeeping force was premeditated." Alina maintained her composure. "We deployed standard emergency response vessels to protect our citizens from an illegal blockade. If your military ships were neutralized by our rescue equipment, perhaps that reflects more on your military's preparedness than any treaty violation on our part." The Grand Arbiter examined the inspection reports. All vessels conform to Class II civilian specifications. No treaty violations are evident. However, the Council notes with concern this creative interpretation of the Species Maturity Protocol. The Zithari delegation left the chamber in protest, but could do nothing. The first test of humanity's ingenious workaround had been a success. Back on Earth, Admiral Harker reviewed the after-action reports with satisfaction. "Begin full production of the Prometheus vessels," he ordered, "and expand the program. I want scientific research vessels, medical ships, and deep space explorers that all incorporate similar dual-purpose systems." Humanity had found its path to defense within the constraints imposed upon them. It wouldn't be the last time human ingenuity would surprise the Galactic Council. 6 months after the Proxima incident, the situation had evolved. The Zithari had withdrawn their forces from human colonial space, but continued to mass military assets along the borders. Meanwhile, Earth had accelerated the Prometheus program, launching dozens of new civilian vessels with increasingly sophisticated dual-purpose systems. Captain Tariq Hassan, now promoted to Commodore, stood on the bridge of the horizon, a scientific survey vessel that housed what was effectively an advanced weapons platform disguised as a planetary scanning array. "Sensor contact," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Multiple vessels approaching from Zithari space." "Classification?" Hassan asked, straightening in his command chair. "1 diplomatic vessel and 3 military escorts. They're transmitting Council diplomatic codes and requesting permission to approach." Hassan raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. The Zithari usually don't bother with diplomacy. Grant permission but maintain defensive readiness." An hour later, Hassan found himself face to face with an unexpected visitor. Not a Zithari representative, but Grand Arbiter Nolan of the Volux, accompanied by observers from 7 different Council species. "Commodore Hassan," the gelatinous being intoned, its translator rendering its vibrations into human speech. "We have observed your unique approach to the restrictions placed upon your species." Hassan remained carefully neutral. "We operate within the letter of the treaty, Arbiter." "Indeed. Which is why I am here." Nolan's form rippled, the Volux equivalent of amusement. Several council members have been most impressed by humanity's adaptability. The Zithari, naturally, are not among them. I'm not surprised, Hassan replied cautiously. The council has voted to establish a special committee to review the species maturity protocol, Nolan continued. In light of recent events, many feel the protocol may be counterproductive. Hassan struggled to maintain his diplomatic expression. May I ask what prompted this reconsideration? Two factors, Nolan's translator responded. First, your species has demonstrated exceptional creativity in working within restrictions, a trait the Council values. Second, and perhaps more significantly, intelligence reports suggest the Zithari have been systematically exploiting the protocol to weaken potential competitors before absorbing their territories. This was no surprise to Hassan, but hearing it acknowledged by the Council's highest authority was unexpected. We've suspected as much, he admitted. The Zithari miscalculated with your species, Nolan continued. They assumed the restrictions would render you helpless, but instead, you created an entirely new paradigm of dual-purpose technology. Several council members are now interested in licensing these innovations. Hassan couldn't help but smile. I'm sure Earth would be open to technology sharing agreements. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council formally amended the species maturity protocol. While military restrictions remained in place for newly admitted species, the amendment included provisions for defensive adaptability and technological innovation that effectively legitimized Earth's approach. In a private meeting after the vote, Alina Chen found herself approached by representatives from several younger council species eager to establish technology exchange programs with Earth. Your Prometheus program has changed the balance of power, said a representative of the Lorathi, a species that had long been under Zithari influence. The Zithari strategy has always depended on military superiority. We simply worked with what we had, Alina replied diplomatically, and created something new in the process, the Lorathi observed. Perhaps restrictions breed innovation. 1 year after the Proxima incident, the first official joint military exercises were held between Earth's emergency response fleet and the defensive forces of 5 other council species. The Zithari, facing a rapidly shifting political landscape, had withdrawn their expansion efforts and now sought accommodation. Admiral Harker and Commodore Hassan stood on the observation deck of the Concordia, watching as human and alien vessels maneuvered in complex formations. Not bad for a species banned from building warships, Harker said with satisfaction. Hassan nodded. The prohibition forced us to think beyond traditional military paradigms. In retrospect, it may have been the best thing that happened to us. How so? Look out there, Hassan gestured to the mixed fleet. Traditional military thinking creates traditional military solutions. The treaty forced us to innovate in ways we never would have considered otherwise. The Admiral laughed. I'll bet the Zithari regret pushing for those restrictions now. Undoubtedly, Hassan agreed. They thought they were clipping our wings, but instead, they taught us how to fly differently. As if on cue, a formation of Earth's converted mining vessels executed a perfect defensive pattern around a Lorathi transport, a maneuver impossible for conventional warships. The Council is already adopting our dual-purpose approach as the new standard, Hassan continued. They're calling it integrated functionality design. Apparently, having military capabilities completely separate from civilian functions is now considered inefficient. Harker shook his head in amazement. So we went from being restricted by Council regulations to setting them. Humanity's greatest strength has always been adaptability, Hassan replied. We don't just overcome obstacles, we transform them into advantages. In the vast darkness of space, the Joint Fleet continued its exercises, a testament to humanity's refusal to be constrained by limitations. The prohibition meant to weaken them had instead sparked a revolutionary approach to space technology that was now reshaping the galaxy. The Zithari had intended to place humans in a cage. Instead, they had unwittingly opened a door to possibilities no one had imagined before, proving once again that humanity's greatest weapon was not its ships or technology, but its boundless ingenuity and determination to forge its own path among the stars.